My little story today is about a period in the last war, the 39-45, when I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time and to have been selected for a most interesting job, a job shared by a very few. I wasn't awfully good, and I certainly wasn't brave. I was just a little cog in a big machine. At the beginning of 44, Montgomery, who had just come back from Africa and who had served in the same regiment as myself, the Royal Warwickshire Regiment, came back and was chosen to lead our troops into Europe. The battle plan was approved on the 21st of January, and I was ordered to a tiny village in Scotland to help in the organisation. We were told that the invasion was to take place before the 31st of May, and we had full details of the landing beaches. We knew exactly what was going to happen, and so we had 4 months to keep that secret. During those 4 months, we had to arrange where to land, who to land and where, to find out where the German troops were, to sort out which of the French were on our side and which were not. And we had to transport something like 120,000 men and 20,000 vehicles, and to get them to the right beach at the right time and in the right order, and making full use of the craft available to us. Now, Monty was a very religious man. Every morning he spent 1 hour with his Bible, whether it be in England, in France, in the midst of battle, or at any other time, and no one was allowed to break that hour. Those of us who called ourselves Christians continued to recite our daily prayers. He was determined that his old regiment, the Royal Warwicks, should be amongst the first to land in Normandy. And I can tell you that we didn't thank him for the honour he gave us. Monty once visited this school, and after he'd been, I asked him what he thought of it. "It's a funny place, Peter," he said, "a funny place." And I asked him why. He said, "I was taken round the school by the headmaster. I found it very interesting. But then I went back to his house to have tea, and he had those sort of head boys. What do you call them?" So I said, "I think they call them the levy." "That's it," he said. "Funny lot." "Why funny, sir?" said I. I asked each of them individually what he was going to do when he left school. Only one boy knew what he was going to do, and he wasn't going to join the army. Funny place, Rugby, funny place. And as the weeks passed by, going back to my story, the pace got faster. We had large 3D models of all the landing beaches, thanks to wonderful aerial photographs given to us by the RAF, and to the information we had from the French resistance. Every little building, every hedge, and every ditch was there to scale. And it was essential that as many as possible of the officers and troops saw these models, but of course they were only allowed to see them on the day before embarkation. All was set for the 5th of June with HR at 07:25. And on the 3rd of June in the early morning, I was duty officer at my headquarters, and I received a phone call from the Admiral in charge of the fleet. And it was simple and just like this: "Tell Kenneth that I can't have tea with him tomorrow." I worked that out. It was, of course, the signal to postpone D-Day. Now, some troops were already loaded in cramped conditions, in little flat-nosed, flat-bottomed boats which bounced about, and they really suffered. We got away a day late, and I sailed from New Haven in the comparative comfort of a Hunt-class destroyer. But I was cluttered up with bulky radio sets ready for use as soon as we landed. And at dawn we were there. Chaos, noise, sinking boats, dead men, wounded men crying out, drowned men, awful minefields. And down the scrambling nets we went into one of these dear little flat-bottomed boats called an LCP, and we waded ashore, picking our way through the casualties, dodging the snipers who were having a field day. And at nightfall, we had got finally into trenches, and many of us offered a silent prayer for our survival. And I moved quickly on a few months to the day I was wounded. By then my regiment had lost about 35 officers, that's 100% in numbers, and about 350 men, that's half, and so my turn had really come. And jumping quickly to June last year, which we had as the anniversary of D-Day 50 years on, I went to a regimental reunion at Warwick, and a man came up to me and said, "Do you remember me, sir?" And of course I didn't. He said, "I was one end of the stretcher when you were wounded." And he went on to recount the moment in detail. I remembered it too. How they were carrying me across a field, and almighty stonk, as we called it, a shelling took place, and it was very heavy. Thinking of their own safety, and who could blame them, they dropped the stretcher and ran for their lives into the ditches. And when the stonk was over, they knew that I was dead, but they thought they'd better pick their stretcher up in case they got some more casualties. But they found that I was alive. And what I said does not bear repetition in this chapel. At the field hospital, I gave thanks to God. I was alive, and I was far less wounded than those lying around me. Later, the MO came round and said, and I remember his words so well, "I'm awfully sorry, old boy, but there's nothing we can do for you." My heart sank, and I thought of Jean, my wife, of 5 months, and of my family. And suddenly I realized that the doctor was still talking. "Your operation will take 7 hours, and we haven't got theatre space for you. I'm terribly sorry, but we shall have to evacuate you by air tomorrow morning." And I lay on my bed and gave thanks. So let us all remember those who laid down their lives, especially the 350 boys of our school. And remember those who suffered and who still suffer as a result of the war. And remember that today the widest areas of the world are at peace. It is a peace the British did much to bring. Let us take pride and celebrate.
Please stand.